21st, 2022. I'm in this. I had gone through, like, some books that had been given to me and my son, or one that went to my son, or two that went to my sons, the other day. Not that I really, like, have the ability at the moment to read through them. But recognizing symbols and patterns as it is in whatever I have left and available. I decided yesterday when there's two men that came over to speak with Lou, I went down. He brings out this stack of books, and I'm like, no, this is interesting because, like, who's surrounding Lewis in this stage of lateness or latency, and everything has been conducted wrong. And I mean, I've been hurt horribly. I've mentioned it to them. Nothing really ever came of it. Just more years wasted, just like waiting to die. And now it reads, he's got the body. I'm like, a short history of nearly everything. A guide for occupants. I'm like, occupants? That's a weird reference. Now, when the men were here yesterday, he was like, Lou brings these stack of books out of what he reads. And the man's like, well, they're like hypothesis at best. And I'm like, right, hypothesis, right? Because the smart and intelligent that go to college, outside of college farce, or university, or whatever word pattern they're using and confusing one another, they call it a thesis. I mean, there's the SIS in there for some reason, in like larger, and then it's hypo, so it's the lower wards thesis, hypo. But then in doctorate, prescription pad doctorate, they use PO for whatever, in a form of Latin. And then there's the HY, which again, in two broken wings and one plank across, or two solid states and one plank across. A charming quirk, boson, dark physics in, like, not necessarily infrared visual, or, I mean, like, photon specific. And then Y being like this family tree with, like, your hands up, and then I realized, I'm like, he said, transcending the levels of consciousness. The Stairway to Enlightenment by David Hawkins. He read that. He said it was transformational. And then he said, letting go. The pathway of surrender. Be kinder, but spelled differently. And then someone, black box thinking. I've never read any of these. I have no idea. But what I do know is the two men that came over yesterday said that I was too old. Like, any good-looking 40-year-old is going to want 19-year-old women. And, like, I'm too old. I'm like, so I should just settle for ugly. I'm like, and then I go back to two titles: The Body and Letting Go. It seems to be this fitness thing, like there is none around here. And like somehow subliminally and sublingually, they've convinced themselves in letting go of the body. And it has completely like just, there's no integrity. I mean, it's gross. It's not how I like living. It's never how I wanted to live. I was happy at 31 where I got fitness back into my life and then that got ruined again. The psychology's just broken here. I mean, like, again, it's just this settling. They just want you to settle for everything that feels wrong and then be grateful and happy about it. It doesn't make sense. While others are living their lives in like this handed and gifted everything. And like, I mean, there's someone somewhere in the world who's so powerful, or so they were told when they were born, that they could change a life like that. But yet, it's happened in the opposite effect of what I've needed my entire life. So I'm a little confused how that part works. But it is so, I mean, it's just, there's no energy here that is good. It's some kind of radiostatic field. I mean, I lay down and I can hear like a gurgling. It's almost, it sounds almost like apoptosis, something popping. I don't know if it's blood boiling and acidity. I don't know, because I mean, again, study of microbiotics or microbiota on an agar dish. There's a natural life cycle, but some reproduce within minutes, some reproduce over days. I mean, and then there's the ones that are taken out of the construct for which they're normally and naturally recognized in what they taught in this college that I went to. And it's frightening. I mean, in the laboratory, we even did the UV light that it affects the growth of this microbiota. But, I mean, we didn't go to the extent of radio signaling and frequency of intracellular communications. I mean, we didn't get to that level. But it is so painful to be so radioactive in that sense of, I don't know who's controlling the airwaves in New York. I just don't. If there's a Dyson sphere, and if that's just, again, for PO, it doesn't look like the melody or a note on a music sheet. It looks like the sick alternative. And then Dyson sphere. There's a family tree or a track that connects two realms into one. And again, that D, which looks very melodic. I really hate the nothingness. I hate the serving nothing and serving by no one by my side. That's what I hate more than anything, is the isolation. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It is so inhumane to leave somebody through their, like, I mean, There's a life cycle to a female. I was really cute when I was young, and I was really pretty in my teenage years and in my young adulthood. All of that wasted on nobody important. Just struggling to get by. This is a really shitty outcome, whoever's in charge.